Dr. Myra Rourke drove her matte gray solar cruiser up the winding mountain road. A shimmering band of asphalt, framed by pine-covered slopes and half-dormant surveillance nodes, nestled in the trees like mechanical owls. The air thinner and colder, then she remembered. Filled her lungs with a strange kind of peace as she approached the cabin. 12 her late grandfather's retreat, and now, finally her own. It had taken years to settle the estate, disentangle it from the HOA's absurd stipulations, and get approval to modify the property. Myra wasn't surprised. Everpine Retreat was less a neighborhood than a privatized experiment in tech-regulated living. Every blade of grass was RFID tracked. Every mailbox had a facial scanner. She parked at the base of the gravel path, bypassing the archaic keypad at the gate. With a subtle blink, the retinal scanner embedded in the bark of an ancient cedar tree verified her identity. The lock clicked open with a soft chime, and the main house welcomed her in a soothing voice. "Welcome home, Dr. Rourke." Despite the cabin's rustic exterior, cedar wood walls, stone chimney, a rocking chair creaking lazily on the porch, had been rewired completely. Over the past 3 months, Myra had overseen a silent digital transformation from her city lab. She'd installed her own system, Oculus, an experimental AI designed to secure, manage, and learn from its environment. It was built for defense, but also discretion. Myra wanted solitude, not a digital babysitter like the HOA's bloated system. She seemed more concerned with enforcing obscure rules than protecting residents. She stepped inside the hardwood, floor whispering underfoot. Sunlight spilled across the room, filtered through polarized smart glass windows. Oculus' presence was barely noticeable, just a thin shimmer of blue in the glass panel above the fireplace. As she passed, it pulsed one's quiet acknowledgement. Outside, the pool glistened in the late afternoon light. Sat nestled beside the tree line, a glacial blue square surrounded by thick black basalt tiles. Myra had installed a biometric smart lock on the perimeter gate, her own design. Unlike the HOA's outdated systems, this lock was immune to spoofing, hacking, and social engineering. It responded only to her and a narrow list of emergency personnel she hadn't activated. Oculus had even added a privacy screen, a thin dome of quantum mirrored light that made the pool area almost invisible from above. It wasn't paranoia, it was protocol. She hadn't even finished unpacking when Oculus whispered through her earpiece. "Drone pattern anomaly detected, unauthorized. Aerial surveillance vector, HOA origin confirmed." Myra frowned, walking to the window. A black dot hovered in the sky, just outside her boundary perimeter. "Can they still be this aggressive?" she muttered. Oculus didn't answer. It didn't need to. Everpine Retreat's HOA had a long reputation for treating its bylaws like holy scripture. Myra had just committed a cardinal sin, introducing tech they couldn't monitor or control. Within 10 minutes, another alert pinged. This one wasn't aerial. Thermal scan shows human movement on your southern boundary. Juvenile. No clearance tags. She walked briskly to the back door, activating the pool cam on her wrist display. The footage was clear. A lanky teenage boy had squeezed through a maintenance gap in the fence and was now poking at the smart lock on her pool gate. "Identify," she said. Oculus responded without hesitation. Jace Palmer, son of HOA Chairman Desmond Palmer. Previous infraction, unauthorized drone piloting. Suspended digital privileges. 3 months ago, Myra sighed. The boy had no business being there, yet the HOA would spin it as concern. Watched as Jace pulled out his wristband and tapped furiously, no doubt calling someone. Emergency call initiated. Oculus confirmed. 911 flagged. Claim, non-compliant tech installation at Pool 12. So this was how they wanted to play. She glanced back at her luggage, still unopened, and whispered to herself with dry amusement. Welcome home indeed. The wind tugged at Jace Palmer's hoodie as he crouched behind a cluster of junipers, just outside the edge of Cabin 12's lot. He hadn't planned on being out here today, not exactly. But boredom, curiosity, and a dash of rebellion had dragged him up the forest path. His dad had been ranting against something about non-compliant installations, technological instability, and the sanctity of Everpine's code. Same tired sermon, just a new name attached. Dr. Myra Rourke. He'd heard that name all week. The HOA meetings had been buzzing ever since her arrival was registered on the community sync log. No one had lived in Cabin 12 in over a decade. The place was practically legend. His friends used to dare each other to sneak past the fence for ghost stories and dares. But now the ghost had returned, and she brought tech with her, an authorized tech, according to his father. That was all. The justification Jace needed. He watched the perimeter from his crouch, zooming in through the HOA drone's remote interface on his wristband. Normally, he wouldn't have accessed. His remote permissions had been revoked months ago for overriding curfew bots during a stupid late-night forest run. But he still had a few back doors logged from before the lockout. He smiled smugly as he tapped into the drone's feed. It hovered like a hawk, silent and watchful, painting Cabin 12 in sterile grayscale infrared. And there she was, Dr. Myra Rourke, adjusting something on the cabin's porch, her face calm, focused. But nothing like the wild-eyed anarchist his dad made her out to be. She didn't even seem to notice the drone, or maybe she didn't care. Then the feed glitch she. Just a flicker at first. It's a kind of flicker that shouldn't happen. Jace's smile vanished as static danced across the feed, and then complete blackout. The drone's link was severed. He checked the other channels. Nothing, all blocked. Damn, he muttered. That wasn't just security. That was military grade. Jamming, he glanced toward the trees, then back at the cabin. He had to see it up close. Something was going on here, something even his dad didn't understand. He crept along the ridge until he found the maintenance gap in the fence. It had been there for years, never patched by the HOA's lazy repair bots. A tight squeeze, but he made it through with a scrape to the elbow and a grunt. The backyard felt different, colder, somehow, as if the very air was being filtered. He moved slowly toward the pool area. It was gorgeous, sleek black tiles mirrored. Water that didn't ripple, despite the wind, and that strange shimmer hovering around the Gata light diffraction field, maybe? No way the HOA approved this. He stepped closer to the pool gate. The lock blinked at him blue, silent, watching. Jace tapped his wristband, initiating a passive scan. The result confused him. No signal, no handshake protocol, no vulnerabilities. It was like the system didn't even register him as alive. Frustrated, he tried to make a call. Voice input activated, 911, he whispered, the digital assistant. Chirped, emergency services. Please state the nature of your emergency. There's a non-compliant tech system installed at Cabin 12. Unauthorized AI, maybe off-grid. It's suppressing HOA infrastructure, possible safety threat. He didn't mention he was standing inside the property line. The call was logged and transferred. Thorntonnet would be on the way. Jace backed away from the gate, his heart pounding. Maybe he'd done the right thing. Maybe he'd just saved the community from something dangerous. But as he turned to leave, something clicked behind him. The gate lock pulsed red. The shimmer intensified. He was still inside the perimeter. And now the system knew. The call went out through AuthorityNet in less than 30 seconds. The moment. Jace's voice hit the system, flagging keywords like non-compliant, unauthorized AI, and safety threat. A chain of automated protocols snapped into action. Unlike old-world emergency services, AuthorityNet didn't ask for verification or context. In an Everpine retreat, the HOA's enforcement arm had more in common with predictive policing algorithms than with human intuition. The system didn't wait for crimes to happen. It responded to the probability that something might be out of compliance. Back in Cabin 12, Mira stood at the edge of the pool deck, arms crossed, watching the sky. The shimmer dome that shielded the pool rippled faintly, adjusting for the incoming AuthorityNet drone signature. Oculus had already detected it, a standard enforcement grade model. Fast, quiet, and obnoxiously thorough. ETA. 2 minutes. 1 drone. 1 local responder, Deputy Cal Renshaw. Oculus informed her through her neural earpiece. Renshaw, she muttered. Didn't he fail his ethics audit last year? Expunged from record under HOA Override Clause 7.12? Oculus replied. Mira wasn't surprised. Everpine covered its messes the same way it coated its trees in nanosealants, smooth and invisible, until something cracked. She tapped the pool lock with her fingertip. It pulsed blue in response. Log and archive all footage from now, she said. High race. External storage only. We're not letting AuthorityNet scrub this after the fact. Acknowledged. Redundant capture initialized. The drone arrived first. It glided in silently, scanning the perimeter, its red optic pulsing. With authority, Mira didn't move. She knew better than to raise her voice or make sudden gestures around these things. The drone circled once, then perched itself like a mechanical vulture on the roof of the cabin, its cameras pivoting to track her. Moments later, black and silver patrol rover rolled up the path. It didn't bother with the gate, simply deactivated it with a universal override and cruised up to the front deck. Deputy Renshaw stepped out, armored in AuthorityNet's standard light exosuit, his badge gleaming, his demeanor. We received a priority alert concerning unauthorized modifications to protected infrastructure. A U-Class tech not cleared by the HOA board, reported by Jace Palmer, minor citizen Tier 3. Do you consent to inspection? No, she said flatly. Renshaw blinked. You understand refusal will be recorded as known compliance? I'm fully compliant. It's with federal tech ordinances and privacy regulations. Your HOA's bylaws don't override constitutional rights. Renshaw stiffened slightly, hand drifting toward the holster on his hip, not a weapon, but a code injector. Then let's talk calmly. Where's the minor who placed the call? Mira gestured toward the pool gate with her chin. You mean, the trespasser currently on my land? Still inside the perimeter? Renshaw's eyes narrowed. You're claiming he entered without permission? No, I'm stating it as fact. Would you like the footage? Oculus projected a video feed into the air above them, shimmering like glass. The playback showed Jace slipping through the fence, scanning the lock, activating a call. The AI highlighted the timestamp, the location, the biometric confirmation of his identity. That's very detailed, Renshaw muttered. Better than your drone's corrupted footage, isn't it? He didn't answer. Instead, he tapped his wristband, linking with AuthorityNet. Get. A second later, his posture changed. The HOA's own system had confirmed the footage. Trespassing. Unauthorized tech tampering. False report under duress. Multiple flags. AuthorityNet recommends detainment. Oculus whispered directly to Myra. She watched as Renshaw turned to Ward. The pool? The gate had already unlocked at his signal. Jace stood frozen on the tiles, still clutching his wristband, face pale. Jace Palmer Renshaw said sharply, You are in violation of Everpine Residential Code 4.7 and federal trespass. Statute 1203. You are hereby detained pending review. Handcuffs clicked. A soft whir of drone motors hummed above. Myra said nothing. She didn't need to. Oculus recorded everything. The moment Jace was escorted off Myra's property, the pulse of Everpine retreat changed. AuthorityNet's decision to detain the son of the HOA president sent tremors through the carefully curated illusion of order that governed the community. Normally, disciplinary action was reserved for outsiders or low-air residents who missed a recycling update or exceeded noise decibel limits. But a Palmer? It was unthinkable. And yet, the data didn't lie, especially not data as clean and airtight as what Oculus had provided. Inside cabin 12, Mira leaned against her kitchen counter, sipping a steaming cup of synth chai, eyes locked on a floating display in front of her. Oculus had created a full report thermal imagery, biometric tracking, time-stamped footage, even line-by-line transcripts of the audio logs from Jace's unauthorized scan of the smart lock. It was a digital dagger pointed straight at the heart of Everpine's authority structure. AuthorityNet's response team has flagged your system for high compliance, Oculus reported calmly. You have received a temporary exemption from HOA inspections under Executive Clause 9.3, Emergency Tech Integrity Protection. Mira raised an eyebrow. So they're backing off for now. Strategic retreat, Oculus agreed. Until the board reconvenes, they will attempt to discredit you. Likely angle. Unregulated experimentation within community grounds. She smiled slightly. Let them try. Elsewhere, the HOA boardroom was in disarray. Desmond Palmer, Jace's father, paced furiously in front of the long, curved table, fingers twitching against his datapad. His carefully sculpted hair was out of place, his voice hoarse from shouting at legal advisors. The rest of the board sat awkwardly, their expressions ranging from concern to thinly veiled amusement. Desmond's power had always come from his composer's ability to weaponize protocol like a scalpel. But now his son had become a liability. She entrapped him, Desmond hissed. That AI manipulated the scene. It anticipated him. Your son trespassed, said Counselor Yu. He breached a perimeter, activated a lockdown system, and made a false emergency report. The AI didn't need to anticipate, it just observed. She installed a private military-grade defense grid without authorization. Another counselor shrugged, yet every node passed the AuthorityNet compliance scan. Whatever Rourke is using, it's good, very good. Outside the politics, word spread fast. Residents whispered over encrypted chats and under hushed conversations at the community cafe. Some were outraged that Mira had weaponized her property. Others admired the elegance of it, no alarms, no conflict, just pure logic and evidence. A few even began requesting consultations with Oculus for their own security needs. The power dynamic in Everpine was shifting. Later that evening, Myra sat by the pool, cross-legged on a lounge chair, tablet balanced on her knees. The water shimmered gently under the night dome, its mirrored surface reflecting the stars, both real and projected. Pull up access logs for the past 72 hours, she said. Oculus displayed a translucent matrix of data rows upon rows of failed pings, unauthorized scan attempts, and drone flybys. Each one had been quietly intercepted, recorded, and rendered inert. They're still trying to probe us, she noted. Desmond Palmer is authorizing surveillance under private enforcement. He is circumventing official channels. Mira sighed. Of course he is. Pride doesn't yield easily. She set the tablet down and stared into the darkness. Jace, she suspected, was now paying the price for his impulsiveness. Not just in AuthorityNet's custody but at home, under the weight of his father's disappointment. The irony wasn't lost on her. He'd called 911 to expose her, but had instead illuminated just how fragile the HOA's control really was. Let them watch, she murmured. Her AI pulsed in agreement, quiet and loyal. Everpine was changing. And Mira, for the first time in years, felt like staying. The next morning dawned quiet, but not still. A subtle shift buzzed in the air around Everpine Retreat, an electronic tension humming. Just beneath the bird song and the hum of climate-controlled breezes. Mira stood barefoot on her deck, sipping coffee and scanning the new community broadcasts from the HOA Council. The headlines were slippery, cloaked in diplomatic language and veiled reprimands. No mention of Jace by name. Acknowledgement of AuthorityNet's rare choice to override HOA jurisdiction. Just vague warnings about unverified enhancements and a new emphasis on community-integrated technological pathways. It was damage control, neat, coded, and transparent to anyone with half a brain. The board was spinning fast and hard. There. Attempting narrative repair, Oculus said through her earpiece. I detect 13 coordinated social posts from HOA influencers in the last 90 minutes. All implying instability linked to non-standard AI installations. Mira smirked. Of course. Discredit the system instead of confronting the evidence. She took another sip and tapped a command on her wrist. The pool shimmered, its dome vanishing with a faint chime. Sunlight spilled across the obsidian tiles. Send out the open-source compliance report I compiled. Encrypt it lightly, let the curious ones decrypt it themselves. Make it look leaked. Leaking data constructively, Oculus said, almost amused. Understood. By noon, the effect was already spreading. In private chats and encrypted groups, residents passed around the file Myra had accidentally left unguarded. It was elegant full data transparency, security schematics, threat deterrence logs, and comparisons to outdated HOA systems. No commentary, it's just facts. By afternoon, 4 residents had contacted her asking for consultations on smart perimeter upgrades. 2 others asked if Oculus was commercially scalable. Myra declined gently, but offered to help them make their own open-source forks of the system. Word spread faster than the board could scrub. At the same time, the Palmer family's influence began to fray. Desmond had gone quiet. Publicly, he maintained his usual calm, but Jace's silence spoke volumes. AuthorityNet hadn't officially charged the boy. They rarely did with minors, but his digital privileges had been revoked. No more drone access, no wristband communications, no access to the HOA hub network. In a smart community like Everpeen, that was equivalent to exile. Mira caught a glimpse of him once walking the footpath alone. His eyes fixed on the ground, his shoulders hunched against a reality that had hit harder than he expected. There was no anger in her, only a strange sort of pity. Jace had been reckless, but he wasn't the enemy. He was a product of the system, one she'd now begun to undermine simply by existing. That evening, an official message blinked across her tablet. A summons not from AuthorityNet, but from the HOA board itself. Invitation to technical advisory. Panel. Security and Autonomous Systems Review. She chuckled. They want to put me on the inside now, she said aloud. It is a common tactic, Oculus replied. Assimilation to avoid revolution. Do we accept? Your call. She stared at the message for a long moment. She hadn't come to Everpeen to make waves, but the system had revealed itself quickly. Power, when threatened, always tried to pull you in close enough to smother you quietly. Still, there was power in proximity. And truthfully, she wasn't done yet. Mira tapped accept that night. The cabin lights glowed a little warmer, and Oculus dimmed its alert cycles. Outside, the pool glistened beneath the stars, as silent and inscrutable as ever. The smart lock stood unchanged, a quiet sentinel, at the center of a story that had started with paranoia and ended with paradigm shift. The lines had been redrawn, and Myra Rourke was no longer on the outside of them.